Okay. Good afternoon, Council. I'd like to call to order our meeting of October 16, 2023. We'll start with our land acknowledgement, and Councilor Perry will be doing the honors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. For more than 15,000 years, First Nations walked upon and cared for the lands we now call home. Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Ojibwe, and many others who were families, friends, and communities the way we are today. The town of Collingwood acknowledges the Lake Simcoe Nottawasaga Treaty of 1818 and the relationship it establishes with the original inhabitants of Turtle Island. We acknowledge the reality of our shared history and the current contributions of Indigenous people within our community. We seek to continue empowering expressions of pride amongst all of the diverse stakeholders in this area. We seek to do better and to continue to recognize, learn, and grow in friendship and community, nation to nation.
Thank you. I'm now looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. The motion reads as follows: that the content of the council agenda for October 16, 2023 be adopted as amended. There are three amendments. The addition of item 11.2, which is a motion to waive notice regarding 6th Street reconstruction motion. The addition of item 11.3, which is the motion re the 6th Street reconstruction project that Councillor Doherty intends to bring, and the addition of item 12.1, that's bylaw 2023-080, appointment of municipal law enforcement officers. That's Councillor Potts, seconded by Councillor Houston. Any comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. The next item is for me to ask if anyone would like to declare a pecuniary interest. I see none. Item 4, adoption of minutes. That the minutes of the council meeting held October 3, 2023, and the special meeting of council held October 6, 2023 be approved as presented. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Baines and Councillor Ring, any comments, questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor. Okay. Any other comments? I see none. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Business arising from previous minutes, and this would be Deputy Mayor. Over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. I wanted to address the minutes agenda item 10.1, which determined Council's top 5 priorities of the Ontario Housing Task Force recommendations. Since the Affordable Housing Master Plan public meeting is on October the 30th, and the extensive related financial discussions that we're going to be going through are underway. Part of our own Affordable Housing Task Force agenda last Wednesday included discussion of what Council had settled upon in regards to the priorities. The task force members totally understood that their direct input in the process could not be sought due to the ridiculous time frame that the province had put upon heads of council to respond. They also agreed fully that it was a very difficult task undertaken to set upon a speedy process to determine yes/no answers to very complex questions. That all being said, they indicated that they were extremely supportive of the work completed by staff in P2023-27, as the recommendations in the report were very much aligned with all of their efforts undertaken to date, and ultimately the direction of the task force believes Collingwood needs to go in. Understandably, there were concerns raised that are now being brought back to council here after the top 2 staff proposed priorities through split votes were defeated. When I have discussed this matter with Councillor Potts, since he was unable to attend our meeting due to work commitments, his indication is that he would have supported number 12 and number 56. Although there is no opportunity to reconsider due to the list having to be submitted last Friday, in my opinion, it was important to bring this back to the attention of council at this time. Also, it will be as important to confirm back to the task force members that those particular actions are of top priority, in spite of not having an actual reconsideration vote. While it may seem only somewhat symbolic in nature, ultimately it isn't to our task force. a body struck by us that we will continue to rely on heavily for their expert guidance during our budget deliberations and determination of next best steps. I am not seeking any action by council at this time. I recognize that what I have reviewed here could generate some thoughts from others, though. Councillor Potts, for one, as I don't want to appear to be speaking for him. If not, though, then we can proceed from here, and I will share that this review of top priorities has been ran by council, and I'll share that with our task force members first opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. It's very valuable input. Are there any other business arising from previous minutes? Okay, seeing none, we're on to community announcements, and we'll start with you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you again, Mayor Hamlin. I just wanted to begin today about yesterday's 150th anniversary celebration of the First Baptist Church. Mayor Hamlin may have some additional comment as she brought forward council's best wishes and congratulations for the vital service that the church has provided to our community. Councilors Ring and Perry also attended. I was honored to help their worshipers celebrate because of the history that my friar family has with them. In 1873, my great-great-grandparents, William and Sarah, would have been part of that initial congregation that had helped establish the roots of this community organization. What came from the conversations with the parishioners afterwards is I've got some things that I'd like to bring forward about what work the churches do for our communities. And I see that as something in the near future that I'd like to bring forward and speak to a little bit more with council. But just a heartfelt congratulations to everyone involved and the successful fulfillment of their beliefs. Calling was a better place for the work that they've done. I also wanted to add about another vital service within our community. Tomorrow, the 17th, is the 23rd annual Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day. Child care providers, that dedicated service providers, are key to the quality in early learning and child care programs of education. We appreciate the education, commitment, and dedication of child care workers to children, their families, and quality of life of our community. Thank you very much, Mayor Hamlin.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. Nothing to add this evening.
Thank you. Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple. First of all, I want to extend congratulations and 2 thumbs up to Collingwood Climate Action Team, who braved the cold and the wet to present their Electrify Your Ride event yesterday afternoon. In spite of the nasty weather, they had some very interested residents come out to see some of the equipment that was on display and to ask questions. So good for them. Secondly, the Be the Change film series will be airing their next film this coming Wednesday night at 7 o'clock at the Simcoe Street Theatre, and the film is called In the Name of Wild. And finally, congratulations to Probus on Probus Month. I understand that our community is one of the most well-developed communities for Probus in the country. So congratulations to all the very hard work that they do in our community. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Mayor. A few announcements. Today marks the kickoff of Ontario Small Business Week. This is an annual event initiated by the province to recognize and celebrate the more than 400,000 small businesses in Ontario and their 2 million hardworking employees. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy and play a vital role in driving innovation, creating jobs, and fostering vibrant communities across the province. As part of this, I'm encouraging all Collingwood residents to shop local and support small businesses. And this morning, I attended the Business Development Center's open house for their launch of Small Business Week. It was a great event for local business owners to get to know the team and the services that are available to support them. More than 50 people attended, with lots of ideas and conversations with the local business community taking place. Black Harvest, downtown Collingwood's annual celebration of Halloween, is scheduled for Saturday, October 28th from 11 to 2. Lots of kids' activities will be held in the park across from Town Hall, including balloon twisting, games, and a photo booth. A costume contest will be held there at 12:30 with prizes for various age categories as well as the best family group costume. Trick-or-treating will be taking place throughout the downtown at that time. This year, with the assistance of the Collingwood Blues players, will be handing out candy along the sidewalk. And finally, in the lead up to Veterans Week and Remembrance Day, the banners honoring our community's veterans will be installed towards the end of next week. And that's all.
Great. Councillor Potts?
Thanks, Mayor Hamlin. I've got two items in the community, both related to Living Water Resorts. The first is they just completed the third annual Business Golf League, again, which is sponsored by Living Water Resort, and all the proceeds go to breaking down barriers. It's made up of 36 teams, various businesses in the community. And also they held the 7th annual Sticks and Stones Golf and Curling Bonspiel, which I participated in. And again, also proceeds to breaking down barriers. And this was made up of 60 participants, both local and out of area. Both events combined raised a total of over $8,500 for the local breaking down barriers. And I would just like to pass along my sincere appreciation and thanks to Living Water Resorts, and especially Warren Smith for his time and dedication to make sure that these programs in our community are looked after. So a big thanks to them, and looking forward to next season. That's all my announcements. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Ring?
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. I'd like to start by saying that being a long time, well, not a long time, never lived anywhere else but Collingwood. I've always had a wish to get to the top of the grain terminals, which I had the opportunity to last Wednesday. And I I'm very thrilled and excited to see when this revitalization finally gets finished, because when it's done, I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed with the views you can see up there. It was quite a tour, and I really enjoyed it. I will touch on, Deputy Mayor talked about yesterday's 150th anniversary at the Baptist Church. So I would just like to start by saying on Sunday, October 15th, along with Mayor Hamlin, Deputy Mayor Fryer, and Councilor Perry, I had the pleasure of attending the Collingwood First Baptist Church's 150th anniversary celebration. Attending this celebration was something extra special for me because as a child, that was the church I grew up attending. On October 7th, 1873, 13 charter members, 9 of whom were women, organized the First Baptist Church. The first baptism was done in Georgian Bay, and by 1876, a baptistry was installed inside the church. The last person to be baptized was actually my youngest sister, Alice. Shortly after this baptism, the baptistry had to be removed due to safety engineering. And at the church's 100th anniversary, the organist was Mrs. Margie Morfitt, and the pianist was her daughter, Debbie Hallahan. At yesterday's 150th anniversary celebration, again, the organist was Mrs. Morfitt, and the pianist was her daughter, Debbie Hallahan. That's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Baines?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm proud to say that for 10 years now, I've been a member of the Optimist Club of Collingwood. But I'm surprised at the number of people that don't know much about what the club does. How much money do we raise? Who's allowed to become a member? What sort of grants do we grant, and how does that happen? How can they approach us for money? Well, I'm pleased to say that tomorrow night, Tuesday, October the 17th at 7 o'clock at Black Bellows, the club will be hosting an open house, and all people that are interested and have questions as to how we operate and how they can apply for some funds are welcome to come out and meet club members and perhaps experience the fellowship and maybe even consider joining themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perry?
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. I just have one announcement this week for the library. It's actually Ontario Public Library Week this week. Libraries play a valuable role in people's lives across our province, which has over 4 million active card holders. This is a great time to visit Collingwood Public Library, meet the amazing staff, and they truly are, and learn about the resources and services they can offer. Thank you very much. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I just have a couple of announcements. Firstly, I wanted to let everyone know that just last week I received a letter from the Friendship Committee for our Gatineau special city relationship. Of course, they were just here in September, the delegation visiting us. And the letter invited us all, our whole town, to come back in 2025. During that time that we would attend, the World Expo will be on in Osaka, and Gatineau is part of the Osaka region. So I just thought I'd let you know that's still a ways off, but we got a very nice thank you for the time everyone spent here. They very much enjoyed all the effort that our staff, volunteer committee and council put in their visit. And we, of course, as I mentioned, received a return invite. So we can look forward to that. I was thankful that Councillor Doherty mentioned the Provost Club. A few of us, or most of us, were there for the flag raising at 1 o'clock today. And I just wanted to mention, in case you didn't know, how many Provost members there are in Collingwood, because I read this out in the proclamation. Okay, you heard it here first, 2,300. So anyway, I think we do have the biggest number of clubs in Canada. There's 10 here. Lastly, I wanted to mention that this is Local Government Week. And the intent of it is to increase awareness of local governments and what they do to enhance our impact on everyday lives. And if some people are at home watching this right now, you probably already have an idea of what we do. But if you want to subscribe to all the things that are going on concerning our council, please have a look at our website, collingwood.ca. This council has very much demonstrated a strong commitment to public engagement, and there are 3 opportunities right now on our website if one goes to the Engage Collingwood page. One is with respect to our 2024 budget, which deliberations are just getting underway soon. There's also an engagement with respect to the Collingwood revitalization project at the terminals, and of course our official plan. Lastly, in case you tune into social media and in honor of Local Government Week, there will be some sharing of trivia questions on our social media channels this week with fun facts about municipal government. So social media meaning Instagram, Facebook, and X. Okay. The next item on our agenda is deputations, and I'd like to call Mr. Murray Knowles to come up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mayor Hamlin, Deputy Mayor Fryer, councillors, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today about the 6th Street rebuild. Before I start into the presentation itself, I just want to make 2 comments as a start. As the Trails and Active Transportation Advisory Committee for the town, we do focus on all aspects of active transportation. So we're not just talking cycling, we're talking pedestrian access, all of those things. Today, obviously, we'll be focused on perhaps more on the cycling side of the equation than the pedestrian side, but I just want to make sure everybody understands that we do consider both sides of that particular equation. The second thing I wanted to say just before I start too is I'm not here today to describe the pros and the cons of one design concept versus the other design concept for this particular street. I think Justin Jones did a very admirable job of doing that a couple of weeks ago at one of your meetings here on September the 25th. He's an acknowledged expert in this particular field and also was a significant contributor to the OTM Book 18 rewrite. So nothing I could say I don't think is going to make any real difference after his presentation. So without further ado, if I could have the next slide, please. Just want to quickly review a couple of things. I know most of you have probably seen this before, but I keep wanting to remind people what's our target audience here. And our target audience from a cycling point of view is not the person on the right in that picture. It's not the experienced, confident, basically cyclist who does it all the time. our target audience here is the people on the left, the people in the circle. The 51 to 56% of the people in the community who are willing to get on a bike, happy to do it, but they want to make sure they're safe. They perhaps are not as confident, not as experienced to be cycling. They're not comfortable sharing the road with cars. So that is our target audience. Next slide, please. I'm pretty sure you've all seen this one before as well, but it basically just highlights from OTM Book 18 what some of the criteria are for cycling facilities. And double axis there, the vertical axis is obviously the speed. The horizontal axis is the volume of traffic. And you can see in the white area there, which is shared operating space, quite clearly anything approaching 40 kilometers an hour is too fast, and anything over 3,000 vehicles per day is too many. If you look at the lighter green area that encircles that, the speed maximum there is probably about 55 kilometers an hour. And the volume of traffic on that kind of a street is a maximum of about 6,000 vehicles per hour. Once you get past those criteria, you're into the dark green area where you're looking at, a completely separate bike facility that you're required on that particular street. So next slide, please. What I would like to do is just very quickly go through the transportation situation, the infrastructure that we have in town. And I'll start off with the roads, and this is the information that was given to me. We've got over 100 kilometers of roads in town. And let's be perfectly honest, these roads were designed for cars. They were built for cars. And the expectation is that the people in the cars use them to get where they want to go. We're trying to move traffic here. I can't really call it a dedicated facility for cars because obviously cyclists are allowed to be on those roads. But going back to our target audience, a lot of those people are not comfortable on the road. And I think we've got to consider that. Safety is obviously an issue for these people. And I think we can say without any reason to be wrong is that if there's any kind of a disagreement between a car and a cyclist, the cyclist is the loser every time. And the other thing I would mention is basically none of the roads in the town of Collingwood, with very minor exception of some community safety zones areas, none of these roads would meet the standard for a shared operating space, or the white inside that particular nomograph that we just looked at. And the key criteria there is speed. The speed there is 50 kilometers an hour in town. The maximum speed for shared operating space is something less, just less than 40 kilometers per hour. Okay, next slide, please. The other part of the active transportation network here is sidewalks. And we have, based on what I was given, about 82 kilometers of sidewalks, concrete, 1.5 meters wide. Does not include the sidewalks, the 3-meter wide sidewalks like the one on First Street, where we also sort of allow bicycles to be present. But I think we need to understand on sidewalks, it's meant for pedestrians. It was designed for pedestrians. However, there are cyclists on there. And despite the bylaw that says they're not supposed to be there, we know we have cyclists that are there. And basically the reason why they're there is because they do not feel comfortable riding on the road. So going back to the target audience, these are the people who feel not quite safe when they're on the roadway, so they use the sidewalks as a place to travel instead. So the cyclists there are the interlopers. And I would say too that on the roadways, if you're a driver, you would probably consider the cyclists on some of our roadways to be the interlopers in the business as well. So moving along, next slide, please. Cycling facilities, pretty small number here. We have a total road count of about 4.3 kilometers where we actually have a designated cycling facility on them. And it's pretty easy to come up with where they are: 6th Street, Hume Street, and Ontario Street. And I would mention too that basically none of these cycling facilities meet the criteria, the guidelines of OTM Book 18. In the case of 6th Street and Hume Street, the issue is quite clearly the volume of traffic. The volume of traffic on those two streets easily exceeds the 6,000 vehicles per day that are recommended for that particular type of facility. Ontario Street, a little bit easier, I guess, from a traffic point of view. The main issue that's there on Ontario Street is we do allow parking. And if you're going along there, there's always somebody parked in the bike lane, which you obviously have to go around. So that's not a really good scenario either. The other thing I would mention is we really have not put any additional cycling facilities in town, pure cycling facilities in town, probably in about 10 years. I think the last time we did it was when Hume Street was rebuilt. Next slide, please. And then last but not least is our multi-use pathways. Obviously a wide mixture here on multi-use pathways. We do have some 3-meter wide concrete sidewalks in there. We do have some paved trails in there, but for the most part, stone dusted trails. We have some boardwalk, we have some nature trails, a real mixture. And part of that mixture too is a lot of that stuff is recreational. It's not really meant to be for active transportation, although it obviously can be used for that. But if you go out into the George Christie Nature Trails, I mean, that's not an active transportation area. This is an area to get away from it all and enjoy the recreation. Even on those facilities, and you know, bicycles are in theory allowed there as well, we do still have conflicts. And certainly, you know, if I listen to Director Culver, who has mentioned this to me a number of times, the complaints that he always seems to get, it's from pedestrians who are concerned about the cyclists. They don't like the speed. They don't like the fact they don't signal that they're coming up behind them. There's always something there. But again, the cyclists are the ones that are perceived to be the issue. If you look at most of the criteria now, the concern is trying to separate the cyclists from the pedestrians. If you go to some of the major cities, any of the ones that are well known for active transportation infrastructure, the goal is keep pedestrians and the people on bicycles separate from one another. I think we've seen already in town, if you go to other more active municipalities, you will see even more of this. E-bikes, e-scooters, these things are becoming much, much more popular. And I got to consider that to be a good thing. I mean, the bottom line is they don't pollute. You know, they keep traffic off the roads. These are good things to have. And the one thing you got to sit there and go, when BMW, Audi, and Mercedes are getting into the e-bike business, I think you know that it's probably here to stay. So in summary, I guess what I'd really like to say is on our committee, we had unanimous support for a cycle tracks type design versus the multi-use pathway for a lot of the reasons that I just referred to there with respect to potential conflicts between pedestrians and cyclists. The other thing is you look at that little graph there and there's 4.3 kilometers of roads where we have a cycling facility. If we put in a multi-use pathway on 6th Street, we take that number down to 3 kilometers. So the bottom line is, you know, for a community that says we want to get into active transportation, we want to encourage people to cycle, we want to get traffic off the roads, we want to reduce greenhouse gases, that number is going in the wrong direction. So we're not going forward. We're essentially quasi moving backwards a little bit if we go with a multi-use facility on 6th Street. So that's, I guess, really all I had to say. Looking for us to go forward on the whole thing of active transportation, not to move backward. And we have this opportunity now on 6th Street where we are rebuilding the street. I hope we can take the opportunity and do the proper design to make sure we've got a safe facility and a facility that easily connects to the facilities on the other side of, you know, Ontario Street and the other side of High Street, because right now there isn't a good mix there between the multi-use pathway on the south side of 6th Street when you go west of High Street and the multi-use pathways on the north side of 6th Street. So looking for that type of approach to doing this rebuild in 6th Street. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for your time. I will gladly answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing all your information and thoughts with us. It certainly rang true for me, who's a person afraid to get on their bike on the road for the reasons you explained, but who's also becoming increasingly unhappy on sidewalks because of all the bicycles. And I had a motorized scooter come up behind me in dead silence the other day. It was quite a thing. So anyway, thank you for your thoughts. Did anyone wish to pose any questions right now? No, so thank you for that. Should we move up your motion, Councillor Doherty? Because your motion has to do with 6th Street on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Now, I think 11.2 is the waiver. Do we still need that waiver? Yes, we still need the waiver if we want to deal with it today.
Thank
so
you.
Go ahead.
The reason why this notice was given for this motion on September 25th, but because it did not occur at the very next meeting of council, and the reason why it was delayed was in order to enable consultation with staff and with the Trails and Active Transportation Committee. It was postponed to this meeting. Our procedural bylaw precludes a delay in the presentation of a motion for which notice has been filed. So I guess if I can ask for support to waive notice.
Okay, would I have a seconder for that? Councillor Potts, any discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I will read the motion. This is slightly varied from the motion that you have in your agenda, just the last 2 paragraphs. So whereas 6th Street is the main east-west cycling corridor through the town of Collingwood, and whereas the necessary reconstruction of 6th Street presents opportunity for improvements to the active transportation facilities that reflect up-to-date best practices, and whereas the objective of the proposed design is to create a complete street that cost efficiently preserves the existing boulevards, trees, and hydropoles while improving active transportation conveyances on both north and south sides of the street. And whereas the proposed design would introduce a 2-way raised cycle track on the south side of the street only that would be shared with pedestrians. And whereas industry best practice is to avoid 2-way cycle tracks because of the significantly increased risk of conflict with motor vehicles in situations where there are a large number of driveways and intersections as exist on 6th Street. And whereas the same shared track would impact the travel experience and safety of pedestrians, in that the majority of users are cyclists, and this form of transportation is likely to increase with the growing number of cyclists plus users of scooters, e-bikes, and other power-driven personal transport devices. Therefore, be it resolved that staff reconsider the proposed 6th Street reconstruction design and implement 1-way cycle tracks on the north and south sides and a separate pedestrian sidewalk on the north side. And further, that the design ensure that active transportation markings at all intersections reflect cycle track priorities, which may include cycle track pavement markings, raised crosswalks, or other treatments that reflect best practice, improve safety, and are cost efficient as part of the reconstruction of this street.
Okay, thank you. But I have a seconder for that motion. Councillor Potts and Councillor Doherty, would you like to speak first or last?
I'll speak last. Thank you.
Okay,
Chair.
would anyone like to speak? Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. I'm just wondering if Director Slama or staff could give us some update. I know that we onboarded a lot of public input and consultation, of which referenced Justin Jones' presentation. I'm just wondering if the director could outline for us some of the things that they've already taken under consideration with that design, or if anything's been changed. First of all, because I don't need a motion to tell them to do what they're already doing, so I just want to make sure we're not doing that. And then secondly, just for the director to clarify for me how we manage the costs within the projects if these costs are adding significantly. I know we've added the words cost efficiency, but I'm not sure that means affordability. And I'd just like to have some clarification on that. That'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Slama. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Councillor Jeffrey. So with respect to what staff have already taken into consideration in the design for 6th Street, that has been presented to Council based on the comments received from the public and Active Transportation Committee. There was a few alterations proposed related to the widths of the travel lanes, which would allow the multi-use trail to expand to 3.5 meters plus the 0.6 buffer on the south side. So that's one change that was made. But you know, otherwise, I think staff have presented a couple of times to Council how we worked through the OTM guidelines to make the recommendation for Council for what was presented, which was the multi-use trail on the south side and the sidewalk on the north side, and how we felt that that reflected direction that staff has received from Council to present a complete streets approach. With respect to the costing and the budget, typically we would guide our consultants to work through the design. So we're at the very preliminary stages of design. So as they go through design and when they reach final or 90% detailed design, that's typically when they would do a engineer's estimate on the cost. So that would be the first time that we could tell you how much some of the improvements or features in the intersections would cost. But I would suggest that, you know, we will be looking in the design at the best approaches for addressing that transition at High Street and here Ontario to whichever the final cross-section design is.
Do you have a follow-up?
Sure. And so just to clarify then what's being proposed would again be different than where staff has come to in terms of that public consultation.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, through the chair, yes, it would be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. To you, Director Slama, is the intention that both of the jobs, if you will, for 6th Street, i.e. the sewers and water, be done concurrently with the changes to this, well, I won't say the sidewalks, but to the bicycle lane and or sidewalks on the north and the south, all done at the same time or separate actions?
Go ahead.
Through the chair to Councillor Baines. Yes, they would typically be done at the same time. We expect the 6th Street road reconstruction to be a project that lasts at least 2 construction seasons. We might find that it's better to break it down to 3. And so in that case, we'll do, you know, one section of the road. So let's say here Ontario to Birch, and we'll do all the underground works and then do the final road surface and the sidewalks and everything like that and progress down the street.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to comment or ask questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
From Councillor Jeffrey's question then, and I believe, and I'll get clarification through you to Director Slama, I believe what we're hearing is that we wouldn't know really what the cost of doing something more extensive like what's proposed here is at this stage. So and just as I said, just clarification from the director that that's the case. And I believe the CAO would like to speak as well.
Okay, would you like to speak first, CAO? Go ahead.
Thank you through the chair to the deputy mayor. Typically, as we endeavor on to start some of these projects, the engineering department will look at typical cost per kilometer and the larger costs that are required. Of course, we need something reasonable to put in the budget. They also did some analysis of the various options. Those were presented by Manager West to council several meetings ago. Some of the options that were, for example, if we had sidewalks on both sides where we had to relocate utilities were quite expensive. And I think those really are off the table in any of the scenarios that you're voting on today. The two scenarios you're looking at probably are similar in cost overall. It really is looking at a similar total amount of asphalt and or concrete across the width of the cross section, just oriented differently depending on if the cycle lanes are separated or together.
Thank you.
Well, I'll just comment. Oh, is there someone else? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. I'm going to try and be as clear as I can. In reference to what CEO Skinner said, my take on this is it's basically how you're dividing up a cross section of a road. Am I correct in assuming that? Okay, and so if it's a matter of a few dollars here and there, I think the bottom line is safety, and I think that's what Mr. Knowles was his main concern. So if it's a matter of a few dollars, I don't think it's too big a deal. If it's just a matter of a cross section of a road, safety to me is priority, and I know having pedestrians and cyclists on the same piece of concrete or whatever it may be is to me is a recipe for disaster that may fall on the town's hands, which I'm pretty uncomfortable with. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'll just say that I do agree with making our known. It's where as we redo our streets in the community with these big major projects, it just seems to me that we're at the stage of a community where we should be thinking about separating our cyclists from our cars, from our pedestrians. Even as I drive around our community now, there's so many more people walking than there were even, I'd say 2 years ago. I can't believe how many people are on the sidewalks, and so many more pedestrians and cyclists on the sidewalks. And if we are going to be an active transportation community and hopefully over time encourage more people to get where they're going by bicycle or walking, we've got to make it as convenient and easy as possible. And this is our first opportunity as the roads come up for reconstruction to do this. And I'm in favor of getting started on this. And I thank Councillor Doherty for bringing this forward and asking us to have another look. So thank you. So I'll let you finish. Yeah.
Thank you very much. First of all, Clerk Almas, you did post the revised last two paragraphs, but it should include the word cost efficiency. If you can put it back up on the screen. So I'll just read it out. So, and further that the design ensure that active transportation crossings at all intersections reflect best practices, which may include cycle track, pavement markings, raised crosswalks, or other treatments that cost efficiently reflect best practice and improve safety of all active transportation, et cetera, et cetera.
Hey, looks good.
Thank you, Clerk. So if I can just sum up then, the redevelopment of 6th Street, this is a generational opportunity. So we have an opportunity to install best leading edge cycling facilities for active transportation infrastructure. And we've one chance to get it right. There is no question that the proposed design, as we see as it sits at the moment, is appropriate in certain very limited circumstances. But OTM Book 18 clearly states that one-way facilities are preferred in most contexts. And based on the number of driveways and the number of intersections and the volume of cycling traffic on these facilities, 6th Street would definitely not be one of those. Besides, most jurisdictions are moving away from two-way cycling facilities, and they're moving away from shared cycling facilities, that is to say, shared with pedestrians. By instituting one-way cycle tracks meaning they are separated from the roadway, separated from pedestrians, we're offering an enhanced measure of safety for both cyclists and for pedestrians, and certainly facilitating more use of active transportation as a means of getting around, regardless of your age, regardless of your speed, regardless of the type of mobility vehicle that you're using. So this, I guess I can add that this design is a win for our residents because it will maintain the trees and the hydro poles, which are a priority on a number of different fronts. It reduces risks and conflicts for people walking or wheeling. It improves safety at driveways and reduces complexity at intersections. And it slightly reduces vehicle lane widths, thus lowering speeds, thus contributing to traffic calming on this reconstructed roadway. So the only trade-off is a pedestrian conveyance on one side of the street that would not be exclusive to them in any event. So I hope you will support this motion.
Okay, thank you. So I'll come to a vote now. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Hey. Next on the agenda, there are no recurring updates. There's no reports or minutes of other committees or boards. So item number 9 is this is the report that was before the Committee of the Whole on October 3rd, 2023, 9.1.1. And the resolution was that Council received the Committee of the Whole report from its meeting held October 3rd, 2023, and hereby approve the recommendations contained within the report as presented. Before I could put this on for a motion, I had posed a number of questions to our treasurer, and I know she was waiting for answers back from our legal counsel. And I'm just wondering if those happen to arrive, because if not, I might seek a deferral of this. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, I have not received back anything from our legal counsel. So if you'd wish to defer it, that's...
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure that we're not compromising the municipality at all moving to this new format of securing developer obligations. Do we need to vote on that, or to defer to until when we have that information from our legal counsel? Okay, so, all right, thank you, Clerk Thomas. So we'll just sever this so that we'll vote, and I'm looking for a mover or a seconder, that council receive the committee of the whole report from its meeting held October 3, 2023. Deputy Mayor would be moving that, and Councillor Doherty seconding. All those in favor of receipt? That's unanimous. Thank you. And then I guess I'll look to you, Deputy Mayor, to take over, because I'd like to move a deferral.
Yes, just give me 2 seconds to bring it up. So we have the receiving of the report, and then we have the item T2023-20, acceptance of surety bonds for development agreement related securities. And that portion we are severing and then voting on whether or not to defer it. We have a mover in Mayor Hamlin, a seconder. Go ahead, Councillor Jeffrey.
Well, similarly to Mayor Hamlin, I think before we put it on the floor, I'd like maybe comment from the treasurer as to responding to the mayor's concerns, because I think at this point, public has no idea what we're voting on or why we're deferring it. So I think it might be clear to have you state that. Thank you.
Okay, yes. So I will turn to Treasurer Quinlan and just ask her if she could give an overview in that regard, just specifically about that. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fryer and Councillor Jeffrey. So the report that went forward to the Committee of the Whole back on October 3rd was to start to accept surety bonds in the form of securities, where we previously would have only accept cash and or a letter of credit. The mayor's questions in particular were with respect to understanding what sort of risks there were that were included with changing this policy. We did receive legal counsel direction or legal counsel on our policy and the template that we have provided to include in as our surety bond holders. The particular questions, and I'm sorry, I don't have them right in front of me, but were mostly in reference to if the developer went bankrupt, for example, would that put the municipality in a greater risk? My response was that essentially with a surety bond policy, we would make a claim to the insurer, not the actual developer, but we wanted to make sure that there wasn't really any change to risk between the LC or letter of credit and a surety bond holder with that respect. So that is in particular what we were asking our legal counsel to get back to us on.
Thank you very much for that. Any follow-up, Councillor Jeffrey?
No, just through you, Deputy Mayor, to confirm there's just no urgency for us to have this in place, ready to go. So we can wait for that.
Yeah. So I'll look for a seconder on Mayor Hamlin's motion, and that's seconded by Councillor Jeffrey. Is anybody, I'm sorry, I should ask if you'd like to speak first or last.
No, I'm not going to speak. It's pretty self-explanatory.
And I'll just ask if anyone wanted to speak. I don't see anything, so I will call the matter to a vote. All those in favor? And that's unanimous, and that it'll be deferred. And I turn it back to Mayor Hamlin.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is staff reports, and there are none today. And then there is, we've already dealt with the motion from Councillor Doherty, but there is another motion here, and it's one that I had brought. And so I'll just turn this back over to you. This is item 11.1.
So yes, on the matter of 11.1, Collingwood Climate Action Team, CCAT, budget request and as noted, Mayor Hamlin is making this motion that the Collingwood Climate Action Team, CCAT, budget request of $32,000 be deferred to the 2024 budget deliberations for consideration. So I have a mover and I have a seconder, Councillor Ring, and I'll ask if anybody would like to speak to this. I see none, and I should have asked if you'd like to speak or speak first.
Well, again, it's self-explanatory, and I think that the Collingwood Climate Action Team did a great job of explaining why they're such an integral part of our climate action here in town. So I'll just let the motion stand for itself.
Okay, so I will call the matter to a vote then. All those in favor? And that is unanimous and passes. And I will turn back to Mayor Hamlin.
Thank you. So item 12.1 is a bylaw to appoint municipal law enforcement officers. And just by way of explanation, these are two co-op students from our high schools. They were touring around about a week or so ago, getting the lay of the land in town hall. They're at no cost to us while they get their experience hands-on in our community. So this is a bylaw here, and I'll look for a mover and a seconder. That bylaw number 2023-080. Being a bylaw to appoint municipal law enforcement officers to the town of Collingwood, be enacted and passed the 16th day of October, 2023. Councillor Jeffrey, seconded by Councillor Doherty. Any comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Are there any notice of motion today? Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you very much, Mayor Hamlin. I had a conversation this past week with one of our larger condo buildings and the difficulties our current bylaw can create in terms of the transition from fall to winter and spring to summer. And so I'm going to give notice of this, and the clerk assures me that this can be looked at. So it's whereas the current property standards bylaw imposes more stringent provisions than the provincial maintenance standards under the Residential Tenancies Act with respect to heating, and whereas the town of Collingwood currently establishes a higher interior temperature minimum and date requirements for heating that can be difficult for residential units, in particular multi-residential units, to maintain with HVAC transitions from AC to heat, nor provide temporary relief options. Therefore, be it resolved that council instructs staff to prepare an amendment to the property standards bylaw that is consistent with the provincial maintenance standards and provides an option for temporary portable heating solutions for limited or emergency situations that adhere to the recognized safety testing authority, building code, and fire code regulations.
Okay, so we'll deal with that at our next meeting. Any other notices of motion today? All right, county report. Deputy Mayor, you have something you wanted to report?
Mayor Hamlin, I don't have anything specifically, but I did provide an email to all members of council last week in regards to the homelessness winter preparations report that we received. So I would just ask if there's any questions in regards to that. It was a fairly detailed presentation, and I just refer to that. And if there's not, then I don't have anything further at this time.
Okay, I don't see any questions. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. There's just one item here that council hear and receive the general consent agenda, and further that the information and opinions provided in the general consent agenda items is that of the author, not verified or approved as being correct. And it's 15.1 sponsorship request to Wounded Warriors of Canada. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Doherty, Councillor Baines, all those in favor. Thank you. Does anyone wish to have this pulled? Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I apologize in advance. I did not give notice that I would ask for this to be pulled. Oh boy, the clerk's going to have a big stick out for me. However, I did mean to. This is a organization whose fundraising efforts go toward veterans who are suffering from mental health issues as a result of their service in the Canadian Armed Forces. I know that our community has always put great value on our veterans. And we have honored them from all of the wars in which we have participated. I can speak from personal experience. I have two brothers, one who was posted in Bosnia and the other who was posted in Qatar. It is you may not come back with physical wounds, but you will almost assuredly come back with emotional change or even scars. The requests for support are quite modest, ranging from at minimum $200 up to $7,000. And I would just simply ask that this be referred to our budget discussions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we don't need a formal motion and all of that that goes with it. We just need a seconder. Councilor Perry, any comment? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. So we have yes, go ahead, CEO.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention this. I wasn't sure if when would be the correct time. You'll get the more extensive budget update in the coming Committee of the Whole meeting. The way that we have set up the budget right now, there's a certain amount set for the council awarded grants. So things like the Humane Society ask. There was one a little earlier here from the Climate Action Team, and there's one right now potentially for the Wounded Warriors. There's a couple of others, things like the Pride Festival. So there's been an amount put aside that the treasurer may draw your attention to or is in the package. It doesn't cover 100% of all of the asks that you've received over the past year that have been referred to the budget. So I think that as you review the budget with these items, you'll want to take a look at the total set of asks and which ones are already included and which ones in fact would be an additional priority. I just thought it was important to mention that might get lost in the bigger budget presentation to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. So we have 16.1 is older deferred business. This is with respect to PW 2023-14. And this is the Environmental Services Mid-Year Operations Update that was deferred from the October 3rd, 2023 Council meeting. The motion is that staff report PW 2023-14 be received to provide council with a mid-year operations update of the work performed by the Environmental Services Division, and that the toilet rebate program be phased out by October 31, 2023. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Baines and Councillor Doherty, thank you. Did Director Slama wish to add any comments to this matter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have too many comments other than just to highlight for council and the public the amendment section, which just spoke to the questions that council members had about the standard of care and just that council members are doing their due diligence to act in the best way possible and ask questions related to the system so that they know as much information as they can and inform themselves.
Yeah, very much appreciated that. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? No. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Under other business, we have a motion. I'll read it in. Whereas the South Georgian Bay Small Business Enterprise Center provides essential services to the business community and is supported by provincial and municipal funding, and whereas core funding from the province has remained unchanged since 2014, and municipalities have increased their contributions by 68% over that time period, And whereas without an increase in provincial funding, there will be a risk of future service or program reductions starting in 2024, be it resolved the Council send letters to the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, and the Associate Minister of Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, with a copy to MPP Sanderson for awareness and action regarding an increase in funding for the South Georgian Bay Small Business Enterprise Center, and that the letter include an invitation for the ministers to visit the town of Collingwood to meet local businesses that have benefited from the programs and services delivered by the South Georgian Bay Small Business Enterprise Center, and that Council take every opportunity to advocate for the additional financial support from the province for the South Georgian Bay Small Business Enterprise Center. And there is a letter attached to this motion that staff also prepared. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this? Councillor Baines, Councillor Houston. Would anyone like to speak to this? Councillor Jeffrey.
Critically important letter, I think, for our community. I just wanted to be clear, it is MPP Saunderson, and that our correspondence reflect that we get his name correct. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm good at reading. I even corrected it. And then I thought, wait a minute. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Anyone else like to comment? Nope, I think it's very necessary and timely. So anyway, all those, oh, sorry, did you wish to comment?
I was going to add a little color commentary, Mayor, if that's okay.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you. The South Georgian Bay Business Development Center is really for all of Southern Georgian Bay. And we have our new manager, Johanna Griggs. Did I get that correctly? I got the pronunciation correct. We do provide those services to a number of municipalities. So in effect, in putting this ask forward to the province, we're asking on behalf of a number of municipalities. I know that our staff often travel to Town of Blue Mountains, potentially other communities as well, and entrepreneurs and business owners from those communities travel here to access the Business Development Center and the SBEC, Small Business Enterprise Center, as well. So there may be some merit in circulating your vote pending its outcome to those other municipalities, and also asking for their support.
Deputy Mayor Fryer.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. And just from some of the comments from the CAO there, it talks about partnerships. Like, is that a formal partnership or?
CAO, do you want to answer that?
Thank you, Chair. I think we do have the manager here. If it would be okay, I would ask her to respond to the formal partnerships. Johanna Griggs.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Through you, Chair. We do receive funding from other municipalities that neighbor us, including Clearview Township, the town of Woodstock Beach, and the town of Blue Mountains, to support the operations of the Small Business Enterprise Center.
If I could follow up, I was referring, actually, it talked about the partnerships with the Community Futures, South Georgian Bay and Georgian College and that type of thing. Are they formal partnerships or just associations, so to speak?
Through the Mayor, they are informal partnerships, and we do try to leverage those partnerships as much as we possibly can.
Thank you. Perhaps I'll turn this over to you again, Deputy Mayor, if you don't mind. Well, it's not my motion, but I would like to make an amendment.
Certainly then.
Okay.
You've already read the motion in, so.
Yes, and we have a mover and a seconder.
Would you like to, so we should, you propose your amendment and we'll see if we have a seconder for it.
Okay, my amendment would be to add on that a copy of the letter be forwarded to the other municipalities supporting our Small Business Enterprise Center financially, with a request that they send a similar message to the ministers.
And would we have a seconder for that motion? Councilor Bain, you moved your head just at the wrong time there. So we have a motion on table for an amendment to the motion as put forward. So Mayor Hamlin, would you like to speak to it first or last?
I'm not going to speak to it. I think Garcia explained the great wisdom in asking them to also ask for funds. More letters, the better.
Okay, so I'll then turn to the members council if anybody would like to speak. I don't see anything. So in regards to the amendment as proposed, all those in favor? And that is unanimous. And we have the motion then as amended on the table, and it's we have a mover and a seconder already. So I would just turn to see if anybody would like to speak to it. I don't see anything. So I will call that matter to a vote. All those in favor? And that too is unanimous. And I will turn it back to Mayor Hamlin.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, Manager Griggs. That's great. So we're at the confirmatory bylaw stage. Bylaw being that bylaw number 2023-079, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special meeting of council held October 6, 2023, and the regular meeting of council held October 16, 2023, be enacted and passed the 16th day of October, 2023. Mover and a seconder, please. Councilor Perry, Councilor Doherty, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. On to our adjournment. Councilor Jeffrey, you got it. All those in favor? Okay, thank you, everyone, and we'll reconvene in 5 minutes. Thank you for our committee of the whole meeting. Thank you.